If you're looking to start an e-com store, I'd highly recommend not starting it until you understand what I go over in this video. Really, the biggest thing is making sure you're starting a store with the viability to expand. And when it comes to expansion, you want to utilize the biggest platforms for that, which in advertising is going to be Facebook and then Google. Now, what I want to go over is what makes a store viable on the Google side and the reason it matters so much. So the reason it matters is because once you get to a certain point on each platform, you're going to hit some level of diminishing returns. And when it comes to diminishing returns, that means that at some point you're going to be scaling, and then the cost per acquisition becomes higher and you can't scale as hard because that kills your margins a bit. And then you won't have the ROI to keep scaling. Now, when that happens, you want to have the ability to diversify into different platforms. And if you started on Facebook, that means going to Google, right? If you started on Google, it means going to Facebook. And if you didn't really think through this beforehand, you might get to that point and then not actually have the viability when it comes to the platform. And at that point, then you're kind of stunted because then you're stuck to that one platform that you started with. So really important because it's going to help you increase sales. Like I mentioned, the future growth is going to highly rely on if you can market on both platforms. And then, like I said, diversifying. So not much more than that. It's more so just making sure when you get to that point, you can actually market effectively on Google as a platform, where most people start on the Facebook side when it comes to e-com. So a couple things to take into consideration for this topic. One's going to be product competition. There's a difference on Facebook and Google when it comes to showing people a product, because when they're on Facebook, they're going to see your ad and then they go from your ad to your website page and ideally convert from there. But they're not being served yet a ton of different ads of the same different product, right? They're just seeing yours, and hopefully you're taking them from that first part of the journey to actually converting or getting them back later. When someone goes to Google for a product, they're searching for the product or something along the lines of the product, and then they're seeing all of them at once, and they have to choose which one they want to look at and then go to. So there's a lot more weight when it comes to the competition. And if you have an industry where there's a ton of people marketing the same product, it's going to be very, very tricky because people are going to have similar prices. You're going to be in a price at the bottom more, and you're going to have to really focus on expensive branding, high quality, video stuff like that, which you will want to do eventually anyways, but it's a lot harder when you have everybody else selling similar products. And that comes down to the industry saturation. If you have people that have been in the industry with those products for a long time, there's heavy brand allegiance to those. It's really heavily saturated. That's also going to be a hard niche to scale into because you're going to be fighting for a minority of the market, which you do not want to do. And then Google's policies. So most people don't know this, but Google actually has been rejecting people trying to drop ship over the last year. We've seen it in client accounts for certain products that they have. They actually will not let you market certain products if they think that they're drop shipping based products. And I don't necessarily know how they know that, but if you see the same photo for every product, or 10 of the same products, being listed on Google, their bots are going to catch that stuff. So you actually won't be able to even market the product if you wanted to, if you're trying to do drop shipping. Next is going to be the ideal type of store for Google. There's a couple areas we look at that are usually key identifiers that's going to indicate some store might actually be viable on the Google side. And one's going to be average CPA, which is average cost per acquisition. Next to that's going to be average order value. So you have the cost to acquire basically a client or purchaser, and then you have the average order value, which is the amount that people are going to check out with on your store on average. And they're going to weigh together, right? Because if you have the CPA, it's going to be $40 and your average order value is 80, right? That leaves $40 left for the cost of fulfillment or profit. But if you can get bigger gaps there, right, especially with a higher average order value, which is the most important thing, that's going to lead more margin for actual profits. So you're going to really want to take those numbers into account. Whether you have a cheap product or a more expensive product, if they're buying more of the cheap product and it outweighs the profit on buying one expensive product and the average order value is just higher, that's what you want to look at, right? It's not always about just cheap product or expensive product. It's more so about how much are people spending on average. Next is going to be not swarm with similar products. So we talked about this a little bit on the last slide. So you really, really want to make sure, and the easy way of figuring this out is if you go to Google and you search your product, are there 20 people selling things that look almost identical? Those are what you want to stay away from. If you don't have that, that's going to be a really good avenue for Google. And then multiple product SKUs. So when it comes to Google, you generally want to have multiple different products to test on, because if you have one product and the targeting doesn't convert on it, whatever it is, you're just pigeonholed there and you can't move from there. So sometimes certain products will scale out a lot better than others on Google, and having more products will allow more diversification on what you can market. The last thing is going to be platform research. There's a couple ways to really dig into all these topics I'm talking about and see how viable your ideas are on Google as a platform. One's going to be using the keyword planner. This is a free tool Google has. There's other tools like that, SEMrush, SpyFu, whatever it is. But the keyword planner is basically a keyword volume tool that you could type something in like, vitamin C vitamins, and it's going to show you the amount of people searching for it, amount of people are searching terms like it. It'll show you the high and low types of competition. So really what you want to do there is look at volume. Is there a large enough volume to scale into? Is there a longer term keywords that indicate more intent that you want to scale into? And then of course the keyword cost. Would the keyword cost even make sense? We have a separate video on keyword math and how we boil that down backwards to see if keywords are viable. If things are too expensive, then you won't be able to market anyways because the numbers won't add up. So highly recommend doing that. And then of course, just going to Google and searching for those types of products and seeing how many people are selling similar ones. If you have, cheap cost, high volume, and low competition, that is the golden ratio right there. So highly recommend doing that research before putting, money into starting a store. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section and I'll get to them right away.